Hey guys, tonight we begin with one of the most complex, disciplined, and majestic civilizations in world history, Imperial China. For over 2,000 years, it set standards in science, philosophy, warfare, art, and bureaucracy. But don't romanticize it too quickly, because as breathtaking as the Forbidden City might seem from afar, if you lived there, your life would have been anything but glamorous. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Imagine waking up to the sound of chickens. Not a cheerful kind, but a relentless screech that jerks your soul out of sleep. You open your eyes and, wait, this isn't your bedroom. There's no bed, no pillow, just a wooden plank beneath you and a faint smell of old rice and damp clothes in the air. Congratulations, you've just woken up in Imperial China. The sun hasn't risen yet, but you're already behind. Your stick-figure body creaks as you sit up, feeling the stiffness from sleeping on something harder than your life choices. Outside, the faint orange hue of dawn hints that it's time to move. And fast, you look around. You're in a mud brick house with a thatched roof. There's one room shared by your entire family. Parents, siblings, grandparents, maybe a chicken or two. Privacy? That's a concept from the future. No toilet, no running water, and definitely no coffee. Just a cold bucket of yesterday's rainwater to splash on your face. That's your morning skincare routine. You shiver, not just from the chill, but from the realization that this is real. This is your life now. You stumble outside. The air smells like smoke, manure, and wet earth. Someone's already shouting. It's your father, or maybe your boss. It's hard to tell in this world, where childhood ends at age 6. There's no school. You've got a job to do. You glance at your clothes. They're rough, itchy, and made from hemp. They haven't been washed since the last festival, and you don't remember when that was. Your feet are bare. Shoes. Only, if you're rich, you're not. Your stomach growls. Too bad. Breakfast comes later. Maybe. First, you have to help haul water from the river. It's about a mile away, and the buckets aren't light. You carry them with a wooden yoke across your shoulders. It digs into your skin with every step. Welcome to your morning workout. Along the road, other stick-figure villagers are already working. Some are plowing the fields. Others are gathering firewood. Everyone moves like they've done this 1,000 times. Because they have, and they'll do it 1,000 more. No one talks. There's nothing to say. This isn't a world of dreams or ambitions. This is survival. Every hour you're not working is an hour you're wasting. And wasting anything, even time, is a luxury no one can afford. You finally reach the fields. They're wet and sticky with yesterday's rain. Your job today? Pulling weeds and turning soil with your hands. Your back aches before you even start. Neighbor passes by with a cart of manure and gives you a look. It's not pity, just shared misery. Everyone's in the same boat, except the people who own the boats. You overhear someone muttering about the tax collector coming next week. That's never good. Even if your family barely scraped together enough to survive, the government still wants its share, and maybe more. By mid-morning, the sun is out, and it's already too hot. You sweat, but you can't stop. There are no breaks, no unions, no labor laws, just the hope that maybe, if the harvest is good, you won't starve this winter. Your hands are blistered, your back is screaming. You take a moment to stretch and look up at the sky. It's blue, peaceful, the only beautiful thing in your day. But then someone yells your name again. Back to work. Always back to work. You think about escaping, running away to the city. Maybe you could become a merchant, or even a scholar. But those dreams vanish faster than steam from a boiling pot. You were born here. You'll probably die here, and your children too. The thought makes your stomach churn, or maybe that's hunger. Still no breakfast. By now, your entire body feels like it's been chewed up and spit out by history. You've been awake for a few hours, and yet it feels like days. The sun is climbing higher, and so is your dread, because this is just the beginning. You haven't even made it to noon, and already you're exhausted, dirty, hungry, and wondering if you'll make it to tomorrow. Welcome to your first morning in Imperial China. Spoiler alert, it doesn't get better. As the heat grows more intense, flies begin to swarm around your face. You try to swat them away, but they're relentless. Like everything else in this world, they don't care about your comfort. Your nose itches. You scratch it with a dirt-caked hand. Hygiene? Another fantasy. Around noon, you're finally allowed a break. Not because anyone is kind, but because everyone needs to avoid collapsing. You sit under a tree, panting. Someone tosses you a small piece of hardened bread and a sip of rice water. That's lunch. If you're lucky, you chew slowly because there's not much. The bread is dry and tastes like old paper. The rice water is lukewarm and smells faintly of smoke. You don't complain. Complaining gets you nowhere. Or worse, noticed. You look at the older workers. Their faces are like maps of pain. Wrinkled, sunburned, eyes dull, from decades of the same routine. You wonder if they were ever young, if they ever dreamed, if they ever thought this life would be different. A child runs by with a stick and a hoop, laughing. For a moment, there's joy, but it's fleeting. The child's father yells, and the game ends. Back to work. The break ends, and so does your chance to breathe. You stand up, every joint complaining. More hauling, more digging, more silence. This is not just a bad day. It's every day, and you're not even halfway through it. Before your eyes even open, your ears catch it. A loud, almost arrogant crow. Not once, not twice, but over and over like a feathery alarm clock from the underworld. The rooster has spoken, and in Imperial China, when the rooster speaks, you obey. There's no snooze button, no warm blanket to pull over your head, just the hard, wooden plank you slept on, and the cold air that creeps under your paper-thin blanket. You stretch, Sort of. Your body protests with every creak. You didn't sleep so much as survive the night. You sit up slowly. Everything hurts. Back pain, neck stiffness, and shoulders that feel like you carried the Great Wall in your dreams. You didn't, of course, but you will today. It's still dark. The rooster doesn't care. It has one job, and it does it well, annoying everyone into reluctant motion. You rub your eyes and try to blink yourself awake. No help from caffeine here. Tea exists, sure, but that's for those with time and resources. You have neither. Someone is already walking outside. You hear wooden sandals scraping against dirt. Your grandfather? Maybe. He hasn't missed a morning since you were born, and he expects the same from you. Actually, more. You throw on your hemp shirt and trousers, still stiff from yesterday's sweat and work. They itch, but that's the least of your problems. Your joints sound like a percussion ensemble as you try to stand. There's no mirror, but if there were, it wouldn't lie. Sunken eyes, ashy skin, a stick figure who looks like he fought a dragon and lost. Repeatedly, you shuffle to the doorway. Outside, the village is slowly waking up. Smoke starts to rise from small hearths. Shadows of people move like ghosts, already hauling, lifting, chopping. Nobody talks. The rooster struts by, proud like it owns the place. You glare at it, but what can you do? It's not the rooster's fault. It's just doing what nature told it to. You bend down to grab a bucket. Instant regret. Your back screams. Not metaphorically, like actually screams. That dull, sharp pain that reminds you your spine exists every day. At this point, you're not even fully awake, but you're already working. Your muscles warm up out of necessity, not choice. The cold helps, in a way, numbs the pain, until it doesn't. Children are up too, some even younger than you. No cartoons, no cereal, just tasks. Feeding animals, collecting dung. You see one boy about 6 years old, carrying a basket bigger than his torso. No one helps. Helping would be nice, but nice is not the currency here. You start your first chore, gathering kindling from the nearby woods. It's not glamorous, but it's essential. Without fire, there's no breakfast, no boiling water, no staying alive. You walk past other villagers, each on their own painful mission. You lift a bundle of sticks, feeling your back throb in protest. You try switching shoulders, but it doesn't help. Pain is the only constant here. Not the sunrise, not the seasons, just the pain. You make it back home, drop the wood, and help start the fire. Smoke stings your eyes, adding another layer to your morning misery. Someone mutters something about how lazy kids are these days. You don't respond. You just keep moving. You want to sit. You can't. Not yet. There's still water to haul, animals to feed, tools to prepare. Maybe, if you're lucky, a bowl of rice water later. But for now, more bending, more lifting, more pain, and that rooster still crowing like it knows it won, because it did. This is how your day begins. Not with a stretch and a smile, but with a groan and a grunt. Not with a choice, but a duty. And your back pain? It's not going anywhere. Neither are you. You glance over to see your younger sister balancing a small clay pot on her head. Her steps steady, focused. She's barely 8, and already she moves with the weariness of someone 3 times her age. She doesn't complain. No one does. Complaining requires energy. You grab a dull hoe and begin prepping the small garden behind the house. The earth is hard. It hasn't rained in days. Your hands, already calloused, are getting new blisters. You grip tighter. There's no point in holding back. The faster you finish, the sooner you can eat, or at least hope to. A neighbor walks by with 2 heavy buckets of water hanging from a yoke across his shoulders. You nod. He doesn't nod back. Not out of rudeness, just exhaustion. Even greetings can feel like chores. Your back twinges again. You pause, straighten slowly, and try to stretch. It barely helps. You think about what your body might feel like in 10 years, or 20. Probably like one giant knot of pain. Your mother appears at the doorway with a stern look. She hands you a small basket and tells you to fetch herbs from the edge of the fields. Not medicinal ones, just something to add flavor to the otherwise tasteless soup she's boiling. You trudge toward the weeds, basket in hand. The dew soaks your sandals. Your feet are numb, but at least the earth is soft here. You spot a few sprigs of wild green and collect them. The simple act of kneeling down and getting back up feels like an Olympic event. By the time you return, the sun is rising properly. The rooster has gone quiet. Its job is done. Yours? Just getting started. You dump the herbs into the pot and sit for a brief second. It's the best moment of your morning, not because it's peaceful, but because you're not moving. And then it's time to chop wood. Your stomach's been complaining for hours now. It started as a whisper, an innocent gurgle, but now it's a full-blown protest. You've bent, hauled, chopped, and sweat through your clothes. So naturally, you start thinking about breakfast. What culinary delight awaits? Rice water, if you're lucky. You walk inside the house, hoping for a miracle. Maybe someone managed to find an egg. Maybe there's a leftover dumpling from the last festival. But no, the clay pot over the fire is full of nothing but thin, cloudy liquid. A few grains of rice float like tired survivors in a stormy sea. You grab a bowl. It's chipped like everything else. You ladle in the rice water. It sloshes like disappointment, warm, tasteless, and thinner than your hopes. You sit and take a sip. It tastes exactly like it looks, like someone whispered food into a bowl of hot water. There's no salt, no spices, just the faintest hint of starch. Still, you sip slowly, carefully. You've learned to stretch it. If you drink too fast, your stomach will protest harder. You learned that the hard way last week. Your younger brother slurps his portion. His face is blank, not unhappy, not joyful, just neutral, because this is what food means to you now. Survival, not pleasure. Your grandmother watches from her corner. She remembers days with pickled vegetables, dumplings, even pork. But those are memories now. Precious, distant memories, wrapped in flavors you've never tasted. You stare into your bowl. It's already half empty. You try to slow down, but your body is hungry, and logic doesn't work on an empty stomach. You finish it. Silence. That's the breakfast soundtrack. No one talks while eating because everyone's trying to make it last. The clink of bowls, and the scrape of chopsticks against clay are the only sounds. Then, your father announces that it's time to get back to the fields. The moment is over. No time for seconds. There are no seconds. You rinse your bowl with a splash of cold water and set it upside down on the table. Another day, another almost meal. On the way out, you pass a neighbor's house. You peek in. They're having the same breakfast, maybe with one extra grain of rice. Maybe not. It doesn't matter. Everyone is just barely full enough not to collapse. In town, the wealthier families might enjoy congee with pickled vegetables or even some boiled eggs, but you've only seen that once. When you delivered firewood to a merchant's house, you remember the smell more than anything. Rich, salty, warm. It haunted you for days. Sometimes people eat roots or chew on dried corn husks to trick their stomachs into thinking they're eating. One man was rumored to boil leather for broth. You never asked if it worked. You didn't want to know. There's no breakfast menu in your world. Just rice water, maybe a scrap of vegetable, maybe not. You dream of fruit. You once had a pear, just once. Sweet, juicy, real. That memory is a treasure, locked in your brain like forbidden magic. Rice water isn't food. It's a placeholder, a peace offering to your gut before you abuse it again. And as you pick up your tools and head back into the sun, your belly is quiet, but not satisfied. Sometimes, your mother manages to scrape together a porridge so thick it almost feels like food, thick enough to chew. Those days feel like festivals. You remember one day, she added wild green onions. Suddenly, it tasted like a feast. You dreamed about that meal for a week. But today is not one of those days. Today is a thin rice water day. You try not to be disappointed. Disappointment is also a luxury. Your father once explained that rice water isn't just food, it's strategy. It tricks the stomach. A warm belly feels more full than a cold one, so the heat is half the meal. The rest is hope. When you were younger, you didn't understand. You cried once, asking why the other kids got more. Your mother didn't answer. She just handed you the bowl and smiled. That silence taught you more than words ever could. At the fields, your friends talk about food, like pirates, talk about treasure. They swap stories of imaginary meals. Roasted meat, thick bread, hot soup. No one's ever eaten these things, but imagining them helps. Sometimes, you've heard of people selling their last blanket for a dried fish, or trading hours of labor for one egg, not because it fills the belly, but because it gives your spirit something to hold on to. Hunger here is not a moment. It's a lifestyle, a slow, humming presence, always vibrating under the surface. You work through it, around it, despite it, but it never goes away. Sometimes, it sharpens your senses, makes you move faster, think clearer. Other times, it clouds your head, makes your limbs feel heavy, your vision blur. There's no telling which version you'll get each day, and yet, you keep going. Because there's no other choice. There's no pantry to sneak into, no snacks tucked away. There's only the fire, the pot, and what little the land gives back. Later, when the sun starts to climb and your work multiplies, the rice water will feel like a distant dream. You'll wonder if you even had it. or if you just imagined the warmth. But for now, it's the one thing between you and collapse, and that will have to be enough. Pick up your tools. It's time to go to work. Not the kind of work that pays by the hour or comes with lunch breaks. This is the kind of work that eats your body, one ache at a time. You don't choose your job in Imperial China. You inherit it from your father and his father and all the fathers before them. Today, you're a farmer or a builder or just a human donkey carrying things from one place to another until your legs give out. Your family's plot of land is small and tired. The soil is stubborn. It resents you. You dig, and the earth pushes back. Your tools are wooden and dull. Your hands, raw. The sun, already unforgiving. You start by pulling weeds, not with gloves, they don't exist, but with your bare hands. Thorns slice your fingers. You keep going. Blisters form over blisters, and dirt becomes a second skin. By mid-morning, you're soaked, not from rain, but from sweat. Your clothes cling to you like regret. You're bent at the waist for so long that standing straight feels unnatural. The work never changes. Planting in spring, weeding in summer, harvesting in fall, desperately hoping in winter. You don't work by the clock. You work by the sun, and it doesn't care how tired you are. Sometimes you're summoned to help build something. A wall, a canal, a nobleman's house. That's when the real backbreaking begins. You carry bricks, rocks, logs, whatever's needed. Sometimes up hills, sometimes across rivers, sometimes until you collapse. You're not alone. There are dozens of you, stick figures moving in unison, sweating, groaning, lifting, slipping, a chorus of exhaustion. One man passes out. He's dragged to the side. No one stops. There's no time. The overseer yells. You keep going. Your legs shake. Your arms burn. But stopping isn't an option. You're a beast of burden. Not in metaphor. Literally. You pull carts, haul loads, dig ditches. Your name doesn't matter. Your effort is your only identity. And it's still not enough. The overseer wants more. The land wants more. Your family needs more. So you give it. You give everything. Because if you don't, someone else will. And they'll live. Maybe. Lunch is a whisper. A handful of rice. A gulp of water. Enough to keep you standing. Maybe. Then it's back to work. Always back to work. This isn't a career. It's a sentence. And you're serving it with your spine. Sometimes the job changes, but the pain stays the same. One day, you're climbing a bamboo scaffold to repair a crumbling temple roof. The next, you're ankle deep in muddy water, planting rice seedlings with your spine bent like a question mark. Every job is urgent. Every job is exhausting. And none of them are optional. The worst are the government projects. When the emperor decrees a new road or canal, that means conscription, forced labor. You get pulled from your village, marched to the site, and work until your fingers bleed and your will dissolves. They call it corvée labor. You call it a slow death with a shovel. There are no complaints. Complaints are dangerous. Dangerous to your health, to your family, to your future, if you live long enough to have one. Sometimes, while hauling giant stones up a hill, with ropes and bare hands. You wonder if the Emperor even knows you exist, if he realizes that this glorious monument he's building is paved with human misery. You get one break in the afternoon. It's not a rest, it's a pause. You crouch under a tree if you can find shade. Your body goes limp, not because you're relaxed, but because it's the only way to keep from falling over. Your co-workers don't chat. There are no jokes, no stories, just silence, the kind that says, "We still have hours left." Some older men tie cloth around their knees to keep them from buckling. You do the same. It helps, a little, but mostly, it just reminds you that your body is already breaking, and yet you continue. Why? Because you must. Because your family depends on it. Because there's nothing else. This isn't a stepping stone to something better. This is the whole path. You've heard tales of scholars who sit in cool rooms, reading poetry and solving riddles. But that life is as far away as the moon. You don't read, you don't write, you dig, you carry, you sweat. That's your story. And when the sun finally begins to dip, and the overseer shouts that the day is done, you don't cheer. You just stop. You stagger home. Every step aches. Your shirt is soaked, your skin raw, your bones tired in a way that has no name. You don't even think about dinner yet. First, you sit in silence. You breathe. You try to remember what your body felt like before it was made of pain. Then, you get up, because tomorrow, you'll do it all again. And if you're lucky, if the tools don't break, if the sun doesn't bake your brain, if the foreman doesn't scream too much, you'll do it with the same body, a little more worn, a little more bent, but still moving. That's the job. That's the life. And it never ends. You were born into the dirt, and no matter how hard you work, how straight you stand, how loudly you dream, you're staying there. Welcome to the class system of Imperial China. Imagine a staircase. At the very top, the Emperor, shining, untouchable, divine. Below him, nobles and high officials, silk robes, soft hands, and voices that command armies. Then come the scholars, respected, educated, chosen through the imperial exams. They read poetry while you read pain. Below them, merchants, artisans, people who make or sell things, not royalty, but not starving either. And at the bottom, there you are, the peasant, the farmer, the worker, the walking callus of the empire, and underneath even you, slaves, criminals, outcasts. So technically, you're not the lowest, but it sure feels like it. The system says everyone has their place. Stay in your lane. Bow to your betters. Know your worth, which is to say, know your limits. There's no climbing this ladder. It's made of stone and guarded by exams you can't read, politics you don't understand, and power you'll never touch. You wake up in a one-room hut until someone else's land. They wake up in silk sheets and drink tea served by servants. You sweat in the sun. They blink in the shade. But here's the trick. They say it's all fair, that it's the mandate of heaven, that the emperor rules because the gods chose him. So, if you're suffering, maybe you just weren't virtuous enough in a past life. Convenient, right? You want to believe in change. Maybe your son could be different, smarter, luckier. But where would he learn? There's no school for people like you. Books are expensive. Time is rare, and your hands are too dirty to turn pages. Some families save everything for generations just to send one boy to study. Just one chance at the exam. One shot at lifting the whole bloodline a step higher. Most fail. The exam isn't about working hard. It's about knowing Confucian texts, writing poetry, mastering history and rhetoric. It's a game built by the people who already won. So, you keep your head down. Literally, bow when you pass a noble. Speak only when spoken to. Step off the path when a scholar walks by. You see them sometimes in town. They glide. They don't walk. Their robes are wide. Their shoes are clean. Their gaze floats above your head, like you're not even there. You are invisible until they need your labor, your taxes, your silence. Still, sometimes you wonder, what if the world flipped? What if peasants ruled and scholars farmed? Then you remember the laws, the punishments, the watchful eyes of officials, the neighbors who would report you for a whisper. So you bow deeper, work harder, complain less, because in this world, ambition is dangerous, and you were born poor, and if you're not careful, you'll die even poorer. You hear rumors, now and then, of someone rising, a boy who passed the exams, a farmer's son who became a magistrate, but you've never seen one. It's a story repeated like folklore, designed more to keep hope alive than to reflect reality. In your village, no one has ever climbed. People fall. They get injured. They disappear during a tax season and never come back. But climb? No. Your parents told you not to. Stand out. The nail that sticks out gets hammered, they said. So you learned to blend in, to lower your eyes, to move quietly. You watch the nobles pass by in their carriages, drawn by horses you could never afford. Their clothes look like tapestries. Their hair is oiled and tied in golden pins. Their laughter sounds like music, or maybe that's just what hunger does to your ears. You envy them, but more than that, you fear them because they can take everything from you with a word. Land, food, freedom. Sometimes the magistrate sends tax collectors. They walk through your village with scrolls and guards. They never smile. They speak in cold tones, pointing at houses, measuring grain, calculating how much you owe. It's always more than you have. When you protest, they remind you of your place, with words, with sticks, with jail. You don't want much, just to feed your family, to keep your children warm. But even that feels like rebellion. You meet with other villagers in whispers, talk of a rebellion long ago, of someone who stood up. But the story always ends the same way. That person vanished, and the emperor stayed. So you keep your voice low. You laugh when others laugh. You cry when no one's watching. And you hope that maybe, just maybe, the next life will be kinder. Because this one is stacked against you from the very first breath. Bathing is a luxury, not a habit, not even a weekly event. If you're lucky, you get one full bath during a festival. If you're very lucky, two. But on regular days, forget it. In Imperial China, for a peasant, water is for surviving, not scrubbing. You fetch it by hand, hauling it in heavy buckets from a distant well or river. Every drop is precious. It's used for drinking, cooking, watering crops, washing. Your body? That's last on the list. Your morning wash is more like a splash, a quick pat of cold water to your face from a wooden basin that probably hasn't been cleaned since the last dynasty. You wipe the sleep from your eyes with a rag that's shared by the entire family. Soap? Not a thing. Not for people like you. Rich households might have blocks of animal fat mixed with ash, scented with herbs. You scrub with sand, or rough cloth, or just hope the rain eventually does the job. Your clothes don't help. They're stiff with old sweat and dried mud, washed only when there's time, and there's never time. So they're beaten on rocks and dried in the sun once every few weeks. Maybe. You smell. You know it. Everyone knows it. But nobody mentions it, because everyone smells. The air in your house is a mix of smoke, sweat, dampness, and whatever's rotting under the floorboards. You breathe it in every day until it stops bothering you. It's worse in summer. Heat bakes the stink into your skin. Bugs cling to your neck. Lice? Common. Fleas? Everywhere. Bathing doesn't stop them. You just get used to scratching. You see your reflection in a puddle. Hair greasy. Skin dull. Dirt under every fingernail. You look older than you are. Because grime doesn't just cling to your skin. It clings to your soul. Children run barefoot through dust and animal droppings. No one stops them. They're dirty already. What's one more layer? Once a year, maybe during the New Year festival, your family heats a big pot of water. Everyone takes turns soaking a cloth and wiping down. It's more ritual than hygiene, a symbolic cleanse, not a real one. You hear stories of nobles bathing daily, surrounded by flower petals and servants. You can't even imagine what that feels like. Warm water every morning, scented oils. That's not just another world. It's another universe. You scratch your arm, and a patch of dry skin flakes off. Your mother notices and hands you a handful of rice husks. Rub that in. It'll exfoliate, she says. It does, but it also stings. Cleanliness isn't something you strive for. It's something you momentarily stumble into after a rain, after a swim, after the rare festival bath. The rest of the time, you marinate in your own history, layered, dusty, deeply human. And somehow, life goes on, because smelling bad, that's just part of being alive. The village healer says dirt builds resilience, that a clean child is a weak child. You want to believe him, mostly because it makes not bathing feel like a choice. Sometimes, after a long day in the fields, you wade into the irrigation channels just to cool down. It's not a bath, not really, but for a few minutes, the water washes away the surface of your suffering. You try not to think about what else is in that water. Animal waste, dead insects, leaky latrines upstream. You just close your eyes and pretend it's clean. There's a bucket by the door, filled with cloudy water. Your father uses it to rinse his feet every night. You sometimes use the same water to rinse your face. That's just how it works. Reuse, recycle, survive. Odors become normal. You associate certain smells with certain people. Your uncle smells like oxen and rice wine. Your neighbor smells like garlic and damp straw. You probably smell like wood smoke and onions. And when someone truly smells different, fresh herbs, maybe even soap, you notice. Everyone notices, and they notice you noticing. Cleanliness can be suspicious. If someone looks too fresh, too well kept, people start whispering. Are they hiding something? Are they pretending to be better than the rest? Better to be equally dirty, equally worn, equally safe. Still, you dream of being clean, not just surface level, but soul deep. You imagine peeling off layers of grime and fatigue until you find the person underneath, the one who might have existed if life had been easier. You once heard of a place in the city, a public bathhouse, a room filled with steam, hot stones, and laughter. You've never seen it, but you imagine it often. A place where the filth is boiled away, and you emerge new. Until then, you wash your hands in cold water and pretend it helps, because it has to. If life in Imperial China wasn't hard enough, there's one thing guaranteed to make it worse: taxes. You don't get a break. You don't get a receipt. You don't even get to understand the full list of what you owe. You just pay. Or else, the tax collector doesn't knock. He arrives with a scroll, a squad of guards, and a face carved from stone. He doesn't smile. He doesn't explain. He just points to your grain, to your tools, to your animals, and you give. You don't have enough for yourself, but that doesn't matter. The empire comes first. Always. Rice, give a portion. Wheat, a cut. Salt, a share. You owe for the land, even if the land is cracked and dry. You owe for your tools, even if you built them yourself. You owe for your sons, because they'll grow into taxable bodies. You owe for your own breath. Sometimes the tax is in labor, days or weeks spent building roads, digging canals, hauling stone for the emperor's next monument. That's time you're not spending on your own survival. But that's the point. It's not just a system. It's a pressure, a shadow that looms over every harvest, every trade, every dream. You can do everything right and still fall short. And if you do, penalties, fines, confiscation, maybe even prison. No one explains the rules because the rules shift. If the governor needs more silver, your taxes go up. If there's a war, up. A drought, still up. It never goes down. You remember one year, a locust swarm ruined the crops. Everyone thought the tax would be reduced. It wasn't. The collector came anyway, and people paid with whatever they had left. Blankets, pots, the family goat. One man even handed over his wedding robe. And if you can't pay, sometimes your neighbors help. More often, they look away. Because everyone's scared. Everyone knows the feeling of watching the tax collector approach and wondering what will be taken this time. And there's no appealing, no court, no voice. You bow your head, open your hands, and hope what you give is enough to be left alone. You once dreamed of saving money, of building a better house, of planting trees you wouldn't need to cut down. But dreams don't factor into tax calculations. So now, you hide what you can. Bury sacks of grain under the floor. Tuck coins into seams of your clothes. Whisper about hiding places with those you trust. and no one else. Because in this world, honesty is expensive, and silence might be your only savings plan. Taxes come in forms that don't even look like taxes. There's the village headman's donation, the local lord's gift, and the temple's blessing fee. Each one takes a little more of your crop, a little more of your peace, a little more of your soul. You start to measure seasons, not by weather, but by which tax is coming next. Spring, land tax. Summer, labor duty. Autumn, grain quota. Winter, audit season. Every day you live under the weight of invisible ledgers, records you'll never see, calculations you'll never understand. All you know is, when the collector frowns, you lose. You've learned to avoid eye contact. You keep your tone respectful. You bow lower than your back prefers. And still, sometimes it's not enough. One year, your neighbor protested, just asked for more time. They took his oxen. The next season, he couldn't plow. That year, his family starved. You never spoke to him again, not because you didn't care, because you were afraid it might happen to you. Now, when the collector arrives, you send your children inside. You don't want them to see the fear in your face. You try to look calm, grateful even, as if this system is a kindness, and in a strange way, you start to believe it, because believing you have no power makes it easier to survive. You tell yourself, at least it's not worse. At least they're not taking your home. Yet, there's an old woman in the village who mutters, during tax season, she says the emperor has never missed a meal, that his robes are sewn with gold thread, that he lives in a palace where the floor is polished by servants' footsteps. She says this quietly, only after dark, only to trusted ears. But everyone listens because when you give away the last of your rice, you need to believe it means something, that all this sacrifice, all this suffering, is keeping the empire alive, even if the empire has never once looked your way. So you pay, again and again, and then you go back to work, because the next tax is coming, and it's always heavier than the last. Justice in Imperial China isn't blind. It sees everything, especially if you're poor. You steal a chicken because your family is starving? That's a crime. Someone rich accuses you of stealing a chicken because they feel like it? Also a crime. For you, you're always on the wrong side of the scale. There's no jury, no lawyer, no second chance. There's a magistrate, a government official, who combines judge, detective, and executioner all in one. He doesn't know your name. He doesn't need to. You're just a file, a suspect, a problem to be solved quickly. And by solved, we mean punished. Punishment is the default. You're guilty until proven, still guilty. Trials don't involve truth. They involve confessions. And if you won't confess, don't worry, they'll help. Interrogation means pain, beatings, bamboo rods, kneeling on sharp tiles for hours. Sometimes it's mental. Most times, it's physical. It doesn't matter if you did it. It matters if you say you did. Eventually, you confess. Everyone does. Not because it's true, but because it's the only way it ends. And the punishment? That depends on who you offended. Stole food, you lose a hand. Insulted an official, you lose your freedom. Did both? You might lose your head. Even small infractions carry weight. Disrespecting elders, walking where you shouldn't, speaking when you shouldn't. If someone more powerful is watching, anything can become a crime. Corporal punishment is common. Public humiliation too. They tie you to a post, make you kneel in the sun, brand your crime into your skin. Let everyone see what happens when you step out of line. And if they don't punish you, rumors will. People start avoiding you, treating you like the guilty one, because they're afraid of being next. The emperor's laws are carved in stone, literally, on monuments for all to see. But that doesn't mean they protect you. They protect the structure, the hierarchy, the appearance of order. You learn to avoid attention, to smile when you're angry, to lower your gaze. Because justice isn't about fairness, it's about control. You once saw a man imprisoned for speaking out against a tax hike. He wrote a poem, and someone told the magistrate. He vanished, just like that. Another time, a young girl was accused of dishonoring her family. No evidence, just gossip. She was beaten and sent away. No one speaks her name now. Justice isn't about what happened. It's about who you are. And if you're at the bottom, you're always wrong, even when you're right. If a nobleman trips over your cart, you're blamed for being in the way. If you shout too loudly when cheated at the market, you're disturbing the peace. If a soldier steals your goods and you dare raise a voice, you're obstructing authority. Punishment is not just a threat, it's a performance. Public lashings are staged with precision. A crowd gathers. You're tied to a post. The magistrate announces your crime, whether real or imagined. Then the bamboo rod sings. The first strike shocks. The second burns. By the fifth, your mind drifts. Some say this is mercy. It's not. It's routine. And the crowd watches not out of cruelty, but fear. Because seeing someone else suffer means for today, it's not them. Appeals? You can try. Write a petition. Travel to a higher office. Kneel outside the gates for hours, days. Sometimes you're heard. Sometimes you're whipped for wasting time. No one wants to challenge a verdict. A magistrate's reputation is law. To question it is to question the system, and the system doesn't like questions. You hear of legal scrolls, of codes and edicts that promise justice and fairness. You've never seen one. They're stored in places far away. Read by people who don't know your village exists. Instead, you learn the law from experience, from whispers, from what happened to your cousin, to your neighbor, to that traveler who never came back. The punishment doesn't end when the bruises fade. A branded criminal can't find work, can't marry, can't speak without suspicion. The law doesn't forgive. It lingers. So you live in a constant quiet, careful not to offend, careful not to be noticed, because attention is dangerous. Even your dreams learn to be small. You want to believe in fairness, but fairness is a story nobles tell their children. Out here, fairness is survival, and survival means obedience. Sometimes, justice is a lucky day when the official looks the other way. Sometimes, it's bribing the clerk with a chicken. Sometimes, it's silence while your heart breaks. Because justice in Imperial China isn't about what's right. It's about what's written. And those words, you were never taught to read them. You don't know the names of the diseases, but they know you. They creep into your lungs when the air is thick with smoke. They live in the river where you fetch your water. They hide in the cuts on your hands, the bites on your legs, the dust in your nose. Your village doesn't have a doctor. It has an old man with a wooden box full of herbs and prayers. He knows which leaves reduce fever, which roots numb pain. But if you're coughing blood or your skin turns yellow, all he can offer is a long sigh. There are no hospitals, no medicine, no diagnosis, just symptoms, guesses, and fate. Your neighbor lost 3 children to something the old man called the summer heat sickness. They just stopped eating, stopped moving. One morning, they didn't wake up. No one screamed. No one ran for help. Everyone just stood still, because everyone has seen it before. A cough becomes a fever. A fever becomes shaking. Shaking becomes silence. Some call it ghosts. Some blame curses. But most just shrug, because disease is part of the scenery, like mountains, like rain, and when it comes, it doesn't ask questions. Sometimes your belly swells, sometimes it burns. You drink boiled water, if there's time to boil it. Most days, you don't. Most days, you just hope. You've seen people with boils on their necks, eyes crusted shut, hands trembling with every movement. They sit alone, wrapped in old blankets. No one goes near them, not because of cruelty, but because touching them might make you next. During the summer, the smell of rot thickens. Flies swarm. Children scratch until they bleed. A neighbor's cough echoes through the night. You count the days until the cold returns, even if it brings its own illnesses. There are folk remedies. Mix onion with mud. Burn a toad. Hang dried oranges from the door. Sometimes they work. Mostly, they don't. But doing something feels better than doing nothing. You remember once, during a festival, a traveling healer came through. He had glass bottles, powders, a bag of strange tools. He shouted about cures. A crowd gathered. He gave out 1 dose of something sour. The next day, he was gone. No one got better, but no one forgot the hope he carried. And so, you learn to live with it. The waiting, the watching, the not knowing. Because in Imperial China, you don't die of one disease. You die of all of them, eventually. You've seen babies born healthy fade before they can walk. Their cries grow weaker until they're silent. Mothers weep in corners, quietly, while life continues around them. The grief is deep, but the routine is deeper. There's a boy in your village who's always coughing. He wheezes like a bellows. Every winter, people wonder if he'll survive. Every spring, they're surprised when he does. But each year, he shrinks a little. He laughs a little less. One day, he'll just stop. You once caught a fever so bad, you hallucinated for days. You saw shadows on the walls, heard voices whispering from the floor. Your mother fed you broth with trembling hands. She wouldn't sleep, just watched, waiting for the moment your chest stopped rising. It didn't. But now, when you pass by the old well, your legs ache, your head buzzes. The sickness never really left. It just took a smaller part of you and moved on. You hear whispers of cities where real doctors live, people who've studied, who have books and instruments. You can't imagine them. All you've seen are herbs, cloth, fire. The village midwife treats injuries with wine and prayer. When someone gets bitten by a snake, she cuts the wound open and sucks. When someone breaks a leg, she ties it with bamboo and hopes. Hope. That's the real medicine here. Hope that the fever breaks. Hope that the swelling goes down. Hope that your child doesn't catch what your neighbor's child caught. You once saw someone vomit black liquid. The old man said it was bad blood. He burned dried herbs and made the sick man drink vinegar. It didn't help. By morning, he was cold. By noon, buried. You keep track of symptoms like seasons. Sore throat in spring, intestinal cramps in summer, chest pains in winter. Every year, a new cycle. Every year, someone doesn't make it to the next one. There's no word for immune, just lucky. Or not. Sometimes people vanish. They're taken away by relatives to distant temples. Prayers are said. Talismans are burned. Sometimes they come back. Sometimes they don't. One year, a woman returned with scars all over her back. She said a priest whipped the illness out of her. She said it worked. No one asked more. No one wanted to know. Even in your sleep, you're not safe. Night chills take people. They go to bed warm and breathing. They wake up stiff and silent. No warning, just absence. You learn to prepare, to keep rags by the fire, to crush mint leaves into paste, to boil everything twice. You think you're careful, but still, sickness finds you. It always does. So you stop fearing it. You start expecting it. And in some strange way, you begin to make peace with it. Because it's not a matter of if, only when. Silence is the safest sound in Imperial China. Words can betray you, even when true, especially when true. There are no debates, no speeches, no protests. There are only whispers, and even those can get you punished. You learn early. Speak little, listen less. If you say something dangerous, the walls will hear. If the walls don't, the birds might. And if the birds don't, your neighbor will. Not because he hates you, because he has a family to protect. Everyone is a potential informant. Everyone is a potential criminal. Say the emperor's name wrong? Crime. Complain about taxes? Crime. Laugh at a local official? Big crime. It doesn't matter if you're joking. It doesn't matter if it was in private. If the wrong person hears, your tongue could be your last mistake. In the village, people speak in codes. They talk about the weather when they mean the government. They use metaphors for laws, proverbs for complaints. Stories about foxes and turtles become parables for survival. It's safer to tell a fable than state a fact. Once, a man in a nearby town wrote a poem about a crooked tree. It was beautiful, subtle, clever. The magistrate thought it was about him. The man disappeared. No trial, no explanation, just gone. You hear stories of scholars exiled for their opinions, of writers forced to burn their own books, of entire families punished for one sentence written in a private letter. The emperor is the son of heaven. To question him is to challenge the cosmos, and the cosmos doesn't forgive. Even truth is dangerous, especially truth. So you keep it inside. You fold it into your stomach like old bread. You nod when you disagree. You smile when you're angry. You laugh when it hurts. You once asked your grandfather why people don't speak up. He looked around, leaned close, and said, "Because they like having tongues." You didn't ask again. Censorship isn't a rule. It's a reflex. You stop writing your thoughts down. You stop dreaming out loud. You stop correcting anyone, even when they're wrong. And after a while, you forget what free speech felt like, because speech was never free. It always had a price. And in Imperial China, the price was usually blood. You remember a boy who made a joke at the tea shop. Something harmless. Something about how even the emperor must have bad days. Everyone laughed. Then someone didn't. A week later, the boy was gone. The tea shop was silent for a month. You wonder if the boy is still alive. You wonder who turned him in. You wonder if it was worth it. Even in your own home, you speak carefully. Walls are thin. Children repeat what they hear, and what sounds like a joke to you could sound like rebellion to someone else. You've learned to rewrite your thoughts. Before you speak, you edit. Before you write, you censor. Before you dream, you hesitate. Sometimes the silence feels like armor. Other times, it feels like a cage. During festivals, government officials come to the village to give speeches. They say how lucky the people are, how wise the emperor is, how peaceful the times are. You clap because everyone else claps. You smile because you must. Afterward, you talk about the weather. You've heard of people being imprisoned for reading the wrong book, for owning the wrong scroll, for failing to bow properly at the wrong moment. Information is filtered. Letters are opened. Messengers are watched. The marketplace hums with gossip, but never about politics, never about officials, only about chickens, weddings, the price of salt. And yet, everyone knows. Everyone sees. Everyone feels it in the way their voice drops at certain words, in the way they change the subject when someone unfamiliar walks up. There's a story about a village where someone criticized the emperor during a drinking game. The next day, soldiers arrived, burned every house, took everyone. No one knows where they went. You don't know if it's true, but you act like it is. Teachers teach silence. Elders pass down the art of saying nothing. Children are praised for obedience, not curiosity. Knowledge is dangerous. Opinions are worse. And sometimes silence isn't enough. You once met a traveler who said in some lands, people argue with their leaders, in public, with banners and songs. You laughed, not because it was funny, because it was impossible. In your world, authority is sacred, untouchable, eternal. It's not meant to be questioned. It's meant to be obeyed. So you do. You memorize acceptable phrases. You repeat the proverbs. You practice bowing. You let your voice become just another background noise, because anything louder is dangerous. Anything true is too sharp to say aloud. And sometimes, the hardest thing about living here isn't the work. It's not the hunger. It's not even the sickness. It's the silence. The heavy, permanent, suffocating silence. You carry it like a second skin, because in Imperial China, speaking your mind could cost your life, and no idea is worth that. Marriage in Imperial China is not about love. It's not about companionship, or laughter, or finding someone who completes your soul. It's about contracts, dowries, status, timing. You don't choose who you marry. Your parents do. Sometimes they choose when you're still a child. Two families agree, shake hands, and tie fates together with red thread and silent nods. You meet your future spouse days before the wedding, maybe hours, maybe not at all. There's no dating, no getting to know each other. There's the matchmaker's word, a few coins exchanged, and a list of qualities. The boy has strong arms. The girl comes from obedient stock. That's enough. If you're a girl, you're told from a young age to be quiet, to be good, to prepare for your husband's house, not your own. Because once married, you leave everything behind. Your home, your name, your dreams. You become part of someone else's family. You're expected to serve your in-laws, bear sons, and never complain, especially not about him. If your husband is cruel, that's fate. If he's kind, that's luck. Either way, you endure. And if you're a boy, you must earn enough to marry, because marriage is expensive. The bride's family demands a dowry, gifts, proof you can support a wife. Love is optional. Rice is not. Weddings are loud, colorful, and fast. There's drumming, firecrackers, red cloth, and fake joy. But the girl wears a veil so thick she can barely see. She's led, not walking. She bows before she speaks. She cries, but softly, because louder tears are seen as ungrateful. And the boy? He smiles nervously. Maybe he's pleased. Maybe he's terrified. But it doesn't matter. The rituals happen. Anyway, after the ceremony, the house is full. Guests laugh, drink, eat too much. Then they leave, and the new couple is left in silence. Two strangers in one room, expected to build a life. And they do, not because they fall in love, but because they must. Because the system doesn't care about feelings. It only cares about order and babies. Lots of babies, especially boys, because boys carry the family name. Boys inherit land. Boys burn incense for ancestors. Girls are burdens, temporary members, raised only to be given away. You've seen mothers weep quietly after giving birth to daughters, not because they don't love them, but because they know what awaits them. You once heard a woman say, "Raising a daughter is like watering someone else's garden." And in this world, water is scarce, so marriages continue without love, without choice, just red thread and quiet tears, because that's how it's always been, and how it will always be, unless something breaks. You see it in the way wives lower their heads when their husbands speak, in how they rise before dawn to serve the in-laws, in how they carry shame like a shadow, even when they've done nothing wrong. A man can take a concubine if his wife doesn't bear sons. Sometimes, even if she does, she has no say, no right to object. Her silence is her role. Her silence is her survival. Divorce? Rare, shameful, complicated. A man can divorce his wife for many reasons. Infertility, jealousy, talking too much. A woman? She can't. Not unless she wants to be cast out, disgraced, forgotten. Widows are expected to remain loyal to dead husbands, to live in mourning, wear white, and raise the children alone. Some even take vows of chastity, Some are praised for joining their husbands in death. A faithful widow is honored more than a living wife. You've heard stories of women who ran away, escaped with lovers, disguised themselves as men. Most were caught. The punishment? Public shame, beatings, death. Because a broken marriage is not just a personal matter, it's a fracture in the structure, and the structure must be preserved at all costs. Some women grow to love their husbands. Some men come to respect their wives. Bonds form, families grow. But these are accidents, not guarantees. And in the poorest homes, marriage is just another chore, another duty, another way to survive. Children born from these unions carry the same expectations. Boys must one day marry and bring a wife home. Girls must leave and marry into another house. The cycle begins again. You remember your sister's wedding. She cried for hours before leaving. Your mother told her to be strong. Your father nodded silently. When she stepped into the bridal sedan, you knew she wouldn't return. Not truly. At the wedding, there were red banners, songs, and a roasted pig. Everyone smiled. Everyone pretended. But when night came, she sat alone in a stranger's room, surrounded by customs she didn't understand, waiting for a man she barely knew. And she became a wife, just like that. You hear rumors of love matches, secret affairs, hidden letters, a boy and girl who chose each other. They were forced to separate. He became a monk. She was married off within the week, because love is a luxury and marriage is a transaction. So you train your heart to be quiet. You let your feelings dry like old rice. You learn the rituals, the roles, the recipes. You learn to smile at family portraits, even if you're dying inside. And when someone asks how your marriage is, you say, "It is peaceful," which means, "I am surviving." And sometimes, that's all there is. From the outside, the palace looks like heaven. Golden roofs, carved dragons, gardens with perfect stones, and ponds that reflect the sky like mirrors. Servants in silk. Walls so tall, they seem to scrape the clouds. But step inside, and you'll feel it. Something colder than stone, heavier than silence, because palace life isn't peace. It's pressure, endless, glittering pressure. You think it would be better, cleaner, softer, more elegant, but you'd be wrong. Yes, there's no mud here, no hauling buckets, no back-breaking fields, but there are rules, so many rules. How to bow, how to sit, how to speak, when to speak, who you can look at, who you must ignore. Every movement is measured. Every word is a test, and failing a test means exile, or worse. If you're a servant, your life belongs to the court. You rise before the sun. You bow until your knees ache. You carry trays that weigh more than your future. You never speak unless asked. You never ask unless dying. The eunuchs run the place. Silent men with sharp eyes and sharper memories. They know every name, every whisper, every weakness. Cross one, and your career is over, or your life. Palace maids live in rows, tidy rows, neatly combed, perfectly silent. They wash, they sweep, they prepare the robes of people they can't look in the eye. One wrinkle, one stain, one bad mood from a concubine, and you're punished. With silence, with slaps, with transfer to the coldest job in the coldest hall. The nobles who live here, They're not free either. A concubine is always smiling, even when she's exhausted, even when she's scared, because one wrong gesture and the emperor forgets her. And being forgotten is worse than being hated. The emperor himself. He's the center of it all, but he's caged too, watched, advised, flattered, and fed lies all day. No one tells him the truth. Everyone fears his moods. He lives in a gold-plated prison. His children, raised by others, taught to bow before they can walk, taught to compete because only one can inherit, and all must obey. Scribes write down everything. Historians sit in the corners of meetings, recording every word. One slip and your mistake is inked forever. You dream of comfort. But here, the pillows are full of anxiety. The silk robes weigh a ton. The perfume smells like fear. This isn't paradise. It's just misery with nicer curtains. There are endless ceremonies, endless etiquette. You spend hours rehearsing how to walk down a hall, how to hold your hands, how to bow at the exact angle that suggests respect without presumption. A wrong bow can mean disgrace, a glance in the wrong direction, suspicion, a silence too long, treason. You must always be aware of your voice, of your face, of your breath. There's a servant assigned to candles, another for flowers, another just to polish doorknobs, each with their own schedule, each with their own fear, because everyone here is replaceable. Everyone. One day, a kitchen boy serves soup too cold. He's sent to clean latrines. Another spills ink on an official's robe. He disappears. No one says his name again. You start to understand why people whisper more than they speak, why footsteps are quiet, why even laughter sounds rehearsed. There's a silence under every sound here, a silence filled with dread. Even the food tastes careful, cooked for hours, tested by tasters, served in silence. If you're a noble, you nod and pretend it's delicious. If you're a servant, you never taste it. You hear about plots, schemes, poisoned cups, and silk cords, not in stories, in hallway murmurs. Because when power is concentrated, desperation follows. No one sleeps well in the palace, because tomorrow, everything might change. Concubines compete for the emperor's attention. They trade secrets, bribe eunuchs, learn to smile with their eyes while hiding daggers in their thoughts. Their rooms are beautiful, lacquered screens, perfumed air, but inside, they are cages. Each concubine is part prisoner, part actor, part ghost. If she gives birth to a son, she rises. If not, she fades. No one retires here. No one grows old peacefully. You either climb or collapse. There's a saying in the palace: the closer to the emperor, the colder the wind, and everyone feels the chill. You once saw an imperial musician cry after breaking a string during performance. She cried not from the mistake, but from fear. She bowed again and again until dismissed. That night, she was reassigned to sweep corridors. Music should bring joy. Here, it brings judgment. Even the walls seem to listen. Even the floors feel like spies. You sleep lightly. You eat cautiously. You smile on command. And some part of you fades. The part that dreamed. The part that laughed. The part that believed gold meant safety. You learn to admire the peasants. The muddy, Hungry, loud peasants, because at least their fear ends when the sun sets. Yours doesn't. Here, fear is the wallpaper, and beauty is just its disguise. The festival drums start before the sun rises. You wake up to the sound of celebration, but not for resting, not for feasting, for working harder than you already do every other day. They call it a holiday. They say it's a time for joy. But in your house, and every house like yours, it means one thing: more chores. Your mother is already cooking. She's been up since dark, stirring pots, preparing rice cakes, boiling water. Not for you, for the neighbors, for the ancestors, for the gods. Your sister is sweeping the courtyard for the third time, making sure not a single speck of dust offends the spirits. Your brother is hauling firewood. You're next, sent out to fetch water again, twice as much this time, because on festival days, everything doubles. Double cleaning, double offerings, double stress. The streets fill with color: red banners, paper lanterns, painted masks. It's beautiful, but you're not allowed to stand and admire it. There's wood to chop, chickens to catch, aunts and uncles to greet, bow to, and serve. You wash your face not for your comfort, but because it would shame your family to appear untidy. You iron your clothes, or try to, but the steam burns your fingers. Still, you smile, because today, appearances matter more than truth. The entire village is buzzing, not with celebration, but with pressure. Pressure to cook the best dish, to host the best table, to impress the matchmaker, to honor the ancestors, to avoid saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, stepping the wrong way. Even the temple is crowded with bodies, not all praying, some just watching. Who bows deepest? Who offers the fattest duck? Who whispers the right words? You see your neighbor bringing 5 bundles of incense. 5. Where did she get them? Your mother notices too. Her face tightens. That means next year, your family has to bring 6. That's the rule. Each year, more. More giving. More proving. More pretending. You serve sweets to elders, bow to relatives you barely know, and pour tea until your knees ache. Someone compliments your posture. Someone else comments on your height. Someone whispers, "She's of marrying age." Your stomach tightens. It's not about celebration. It's about judgment. Later, there's a lion dance. Music. Drums so loud they shake your bones. You want to dance. You really do. But your feet hurt. And your hands are raw. And your smile feels like it's held up by string. You sneak one bite of mooncake. It's dry. Too sweet. Still, it's the best thing you'll taste all week. Fireworks come at night. They light up the sky. Brief moments of beauty. You stare, and for a second, you forget. But tomorrow, you'll wake up earlier, because the dishes are still there, and the festival never really ended. It just changed clothes, and called itself joy. You remember when you were little, festivals felt magical. Lanterns looked like stars. Firecrackers sounded like dragons laughing. You believed the food appeared by magic. The decorations hung themselves. The happiness was real. Now you know better. Every lantern was tied by someone's sore fingers. Every dumpling shaped by someone's cramped hands. Every smile worn like a mask. And that someone was probably your mother. Or you. Festivals come with rituals. Rituals come with expectations. Expectations come with work. Before the festival, you scrub walls, you patch clothes, you repaint characters on the gate. Everything must look new. Not be new, look new. It's not about reality. It's about illusion. Your uncle drinks too much. He always does. Tells the same joke. Brags about the same stories. Your aunt rolls her eyes. Again. But no one says anything. Because it's the festival. And on festival days, everyone acts. The old lady next door sets off firecrackers at the wrong time. The priest frowns. She cries. Your family helps clean up. Because shame is contagious. Children run around with red envelopes. But most of them are empty, just for show. Some families can't afford gifts, but they pretend. Better to be hungry than embarrassed. Somewhere in the background, a singer warbles a folk song. You used to love that song. Now, it just reminds you of tired feet and burned fingers. Someone jokes about skipping the festival next year. Everyone laughs too hard because no one can skip it. It's not a choice. It's a duty wrapped in fireworks. At night, you lay on a thin mat, still wearing your nice clothes. Your arms ache. Your back throbs. The smell of incense clings to your skin. You blink at the ceiling, wondering what tomorrow's chores will be. Then you hear your mother sigh in the next room. Just once. Just enough to let you know. She feels it too. The festival isn't a break. It's just another day. Wearing red. You don't sleep. You survive the night. Your bed is a wooden plank. No mattress. No cushion. Just wood. And not smooth wood. Splintered. Warped by time. Carved by decades of tired backs. You lay flat. Or you try. Every bone protests. Your shoulders ache. Your hips dig into the surface. You shift. But there's nowhere to go. It's hard. It's always hard. The blanket? If you're lucky, it's woven straw. If you're less lucky, it's a coat. A sibling's coat. Thin. Torn. Too small. And it doesn't keep out the cold. The cold slips in under the door, through the cracks in the wall, into your clothes, into your bones. You curl into yourself, arms wrapped around your chest. You try to be small, smaller, anything to stay warm. But even if you beat the cold, there's the itch. Bugs, fleas, lice, tiny things with big appetites. They live in the blanket, in the straw mat, in your hair, on your skin. You scratch until you bleed, then scratch some more. Sometimes you hear them, tiny feet crawling. You slap, miss, slap again. Someone across the room coughs. Someone turns over. Someone mutters in their sleep. The night is not quiet. It's filled with tired noises. You close your eyes and wait. Sleep doesn't come easy. Not with a sore back. Not with cold toes. Not with bites on your arms. But eventually, exhaustion wins. You drift. Not into dreams, but into stillness. Heavy, aching stillness. And in the morning, you wake up stiffer than you slept. Because this isn't rest, it's pause. Tomorrow, you'll sleep on the same wood. And tomorrow, it'll feel even harder. Because the longer you live like this, the heavier your body gets. Not with weight, with tired. With the kind of tired that no blanket can cure. Sometimes, the wind howls through the cracks in the roof. It whistles lullabies of frost. Your breath fogs. You pull your coat tighter, but it's not enough. It's never enough. Your little brother shares the plank with you. He kicks in his sleep. He shivers. He whimpers. You don't wake him. There's nothing you could do. The bugs don't care who they bite. They find the softest skin and claim it. You hear scratching all night. Not just yours. Everyone's. The whole room moves in a rhythm of discomfort. The wood creaks under every breath, every shift. It remembers each sleeper, every body that's lain upon it. You think about the noble children, sleeping on cushions stuffed with duck feathers, silk blankets, heated brick beds. You wonder if they know what it means to ache. You know they don't. Even your dreams are tired. When you manage to sleep, you dream of lying down. In your dream, there's a mattress, a pillow, a blanket that covers you completely. You sleep and wake without pain. Then you wake, and the dream is gone, and your neck hurts. You sit up slowly, your joints resist, your spine creaks. You stretch, carefully, because fast movement brings sharp reminders. There's no reward for sleeping, no comfort, no peace. It's just the gap between one set of labors and the next. You used to complain, when you were younger, about the cold, about the wood, about the bugs. Your mother hushed you. Better than outside, she said. And she was right. Some people sleep under trees, or in carts, or not at all. Some nights, you lie awake counting bites, counting coughs, counting cracks in the ceiling, anything to avoid thinking. Because if you start thinking, really thinking, you remember that this is permanent. This is your bed, tonight, tomorrow, next year. No one is coming with a mattress. No magic pillow will appear. No soft sheet will fall from the sky. Just the plank. Always the plank. You tuck your legs close. You breathe slow. You listen to the insects outside the window. You wait for sleep, like waiting for rain. Hopeful, but never certain. And when morning comes, you rise slower than you used to, because your back remembers. And so does the wood. Could you survive even one day in Imperial China? Let's see. You wake up sore, on wood, covered in bug bites. You haven't slept. Not really. Just paused between two shifts of suffering. The sun isn't even up yet. There's no coffee, no alarm clock, just a rooster, a cold splash of water, and the sound of your mother coughing in the next room. You eat a bowl of rice water, maybe, if there's enough. Then you walk, far, to a field, to a job, to a task that doesn't end. You dig, you carry, you sweat, you bend, you don't stop. You dream of sitting. But even sitting hurts now. The tax collector shows up. You give him rice, or salt, or a chicken, or a bow so deep your spine cracks. You pray he's in a good mood. Then it's lunch. Another word for not eating. You get back to work. Someone shouts. You bow. You smile. You obey. You trip. You bleed. No one helps. No one stops. There is no bandage. You remember to say the emperor's name correctly. You remember not to speak your mind. You remember that silence is survival. You wonder if you're sick, but there's no time for sick. Sick means slow. Slow means punished. Punished means pain. Then evening comes. You don't eat a meal. You scrape together scraps. You chew quietly, hoping for more. Someone says something wrong. They're dragged Away. You pretend you didn't see. You bow again. You wash your bowl. You sweep the floor. You crawl onto a wooden plank. You scratch. You shiver. You count breaths. You try not to think. You try to dream. But you don't. Because your body is too busy surviving. That was one day. Now repeat it 364 more times for the rest of your life. Would you survive even one? Probably not. Because survival here isn't just about strength. It's about silence, endurance, disappearance. It's about holding your breath when someone screams, about smiling when you want to collapse, about keeping your head low when your soul wants to rise. Every day is the same. Every day is different. Some days the sun burns. Some days the wind cuts. Some days the rain turns the roads into rivers of filth. And you keep walking because you must. Because there's no alternative. No safety net. No second chance. If your back breaks, you're done. If your mind breaks, no one notices. If your heart breaks, you bury it and keep moving. You've seen people vanish under the weight of it. Slowly, quietly, their light goes out long before their bodies do, and the system remains immense, unfeeling, eternal. You live in a world that was never made for you. Your name is forgotten the moment you're born. Your labor is taken. Your voice is silenced. Your dreams are trimmed down until they can fit in a rice bowl. And still, you rise. You tie your shoes with hands blistered from rope. You braid your daughter's hair with fingers stiff from frost. You sing lullabies while coughing up dust. Not because you're hopeful, but because there is no other option. You learn to celebrate the smallest things. A warm bowl of porridge, a dry patch of earth, a quiet moment without pain. Those become your joy, because nothing else is promised. You once heard of a rebellion, far away, led by farmers, men who got tired of bowing, women who shouted names, children who ran without fear. They were crushed. Of course they were. The palace wrote them out of history, called them traitors, inscribed their failure in ink. But in your house, someone still remembers a whispered story, a dangerous bedtime tale. And when you hear it, something flickers inside you. Not hope, not quite, but something stubborn. Something that says, I see you, and that's enough to keep going. Because maybe you wouldn't survive a day in Imperial China, but they did. Millions of them. And somehow, that matters.